Okay, welcome back to the Success, Money, Marriage podcast. I'm Steve Siebold.
And I'm Dawn Siebold.
And today we're going to talk about building each other up, both personally and in business. And what I mean by this specifically is primarily when you're struggling, whether you're struggling personally in your relationship, just in your personal life, maybe as parents if you have kids, or just together, or something's happened, there's been some kind of an event, or in business. You know, in business, there's always challenges, right? There's always obstacles, there's always problems. And the bigger you get in business, the more people you employ, the more customers you have, the more reach you have, the more problems you have, the more money you make, you know, the more issues you come up with. And, you know, you've got your partner, and who's also your spouse. And when problems happen, you get people that will, especially if you've got a lot of customers, clients, you're in the public, you're getting people attacking your spouse. I mean, right? And it can drain confidence. It can do all kinds of things. And I think that it's really critical that your spouse knows that you're there to build him or her up no matter what happens. Because if they can't count on you for that, if it's not you and your spouse against the world, so to speak, then who can they count on?
Right.
Right. And so I think especially now when times are good and everything's going great and you're making boatloads of money, and, you know, we've been there, and we've also been on the other side of the equation when you're not making money and it's stressful, and, you know, business has gone to hell. There's a pandemic, you know, God knows what.
And you're in the speaking business, so they stop having meetings.
Yeah, exactly. You have two businesses that are live event businesses, and there's no live events for 2 years. That could be an example, but I don't know if that would ever happen. How would the world just shut down for that? It's impossible.
Couldn't see that coming.
It's a movie. Yeah, it's only in a movie. Total fiction. But that's my take on it. I mean, in terms of, you know, setting it up that your spouse has to know you're going to be there emotionally for you, and that you're going to keep building that person up, so the world can't knock them down all the way or so low that they become discouraged.
Yeah, no, I think it's right. And Steve probably does it better than anyone I've ever met. And he does it in such subtle ways. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of how Steve builds me up, because I think that might help the audience. So when my confidence is down, a couple of years ago, we went into a brand new business, and I've been selling pretty much, you know, my whole life, and I enjoy it, and I like being on the phone, and I'm not afraid to say I like sales, and I know some people are, but I really do enjoy it because I believe in what I'm selling. So a few years ago, we went into this new business, and I had lost a lot of confidence. Again, our business took a pivot because of the pandemic, the COVID, and so I lost a lot of confidence in my ability and my skills to be able to sell. And so for days, I knew he was doing it, and it still didn't bother me because I needed to be picked up. But for days, he would remind me of all the successes I had had in selling. So it would be comments, I mean, like every day for a week, he would say, remember, I mean, you're like the best person who would sell that. And remember, you were number one in real estate. Remember you, and he did it like through storytelling to kind of build me back up. And, you know, it really took me like 5 days to catch on that he was building my confidence back. But that's just how badly I needed it. So there's lots of ways you can support each other, lots of ways you can give affirmations and so again, support and make sure that they have what they need mentally and physically and spiritually, and be aware of it when it happens. So there's been times that I've been really in a bad space, and Steve's helped me. There's been times that Steve has been, luckily, very seldom are we in a bad space at the same time, but the support, especially coming from someone, I think, and I want to get your opinion on it, it's someone that knows you so well, better than anybody, and knows what you're going through and knows the struggles. It is even more heightened of every comment that comes out of Steve, because when I was going through that difficult time a few years ago and money wasn't I wasn't producing money, which really irritates me, then I was hanging on every word Steve said, and he could have easily turned and gone a different way if he hadn't supported me.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a good point. I just in general, the one thing I would say is, and I know you and I have talked about this a lot, and this is a serious thing, is that the one thing I would discourage people from doing is the fake complimenting.
Yeah.
It's like when we always joke around in the Bill Gove speech workshop that we run, for keynote speakers. We've run for so many years. We'll joke with the group. They'll say, and this is actually not a joke. It's actually true, but we laugh about it. But it's actually completely true. Is that speaking at conventions for the last 25 years, it's like typically you're one of the only fee-paid professional speakers at any convention you speak, even if it's Microsoft's national. All these places I've keynoted all over the world for 25 years, almost 25 years. the executives will come up and say, oh yeah, the executive of Microsoft or Procter & Gamble or whatever company it is, and they come up one after another, and they talk about their spouses are sometimes there, and they'll say, oh, my spouse is in the audience, and isn't she wonderful? She's just the greatest mother and the greatest this and beautiful and this and that, and it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just that they go on and on, where it's fake. You can tell it's flowery and it's just BS, and I know the spouse isn't buying it. You could, because it's phony.
You can tell.
But what I want to say to them, and I never do because I'm working for them, is there are good things about that spouse that you can actually say and really mean, and just say those things. Nobody's perfect. No, they get up there and we joke in the workshop. We'll say, because again this happens. They'll say, well, we have 2 kids and they're perfect kids. They've got always straight A students, Muffy, and Bentley. And of course, Muffy was going to Yale, and Bentley wanted her to go to Harvard with him. But but it's okay. Yale and Harvard's fine with us. They're straight A students, of course, and they're going to go on and be probably president and vice president of the United States because they're just so brilliant. And we've never had a problem with them. Never got in trouble. Never. You want to throw up, because it's BS. I'm not saying they can't have sharp kids, and you don't have sharp kids or a sharp spouse or a loving person or someone that's worth complimenting. I'm just saying, when I was saying that stuff to you, those were things I meant. Now I could have said a lot of other things, and you would have known, because your spouse knows when you're playing that game. Right. When you're playing the flowery game. Oh, you're so wonderful. You're so this. You're so that. Right. None of us can qualify for any of those things, but we're all of those things, let's say. But you can qualify for you're literally one of the best salesperson, if not the best salesperson I've ever met, because you mean it when you talk to someone and you walk them through a process. You're not trying to sell them. You're selling them a solution to their problem. And if you can't solve it, you don't sell them. And I think that's what makes you very, very persuasive. So I was saying those things. I mean, I knew you needed it, so I said it more than I normally would have, but I wasn't saying anything that I didn't believe.
That's a good point.
And the flowery stuff and the BS stuff, people go, you're so this, and they know they might swallow it because they need it so badly at that time, but they don't really believe that you believe that.
So I totally agree with what you're saying, because I know it's all authentic, and one of the things that being around personal development, and Steve and I grew up in personal development since we were in our 20s. There's always when we're both down, it's always like we always win, we always get what we want. There's mantras that we do, probably subconsciously, that when we're down, we both have these certain things. You always win, and we have these little things that we say to each other. So I agree with you 100%, except when, and this is very few people. So if this isn't your relationship, I totally get it. But when you are married to someone who performs for a living, if it's a professional speaker or a musician or an actor, someone in the entertainment business.
Or like a sexual athlete?
Yes, you could be a sexual athlete. I don't know anyone that is in that industry, or in that business. Just in general.
Just a great athlete sexually.
No, I'm talking about someone who does this for a living. You're in a profession that they're performing
not
for a professional.
No, it is a hobby.
Not that I know of. Is there something you want to tell me?
No. I was just curious. Just clarification.
How much money can we make?
Point of clarification.
No, but I mean, seriously, that's something I learned a long time ago when Steve got into the speaking business and the writing business is, if you are married to someone or partnered with someone that is in a performance industry, so they're performing for money, then we kind of joke about it in the Bill Gove speech workshop, but there is a place for not telling the honest truth right away. So we have what we call the 24-hour rule, and we do joke about it, but it is true. So I think you have to be sensitive to the people. Now, a lot of partners are not married to someone who's in the performance business for money. Now, I mean, people only mean the performance business, but our income relies on Steve performing for the most part. And so I think when Steve comes off stage, I always try to be really positive. Always try to look at the things he did really well, and I do wait 24 hours. And when he comes back to me, he says, "Okay, what did you really think?" Well, yeah, you might want to consider doing this or saying that or writing this instead of that. But in the beginning, right when he comes off stage or right when a book has been released or he's come off a TV show or whatever it is that he's just performed for our income, then I'm always positive. I'm so supportive, and very seldom you never really bombed, but there was a time in Dallas. There was a time in Dallas. There was the Dallas massacre. Years ago, and I,
3 days after 9/11.
3 days after 9/11. It was totally not Steve's fault. But my point is if you are in a relationship with someone who does performance as for a living, then I do wait. I am looking for that confirmation that he did a great job. He comes off stage, and I'm like, you nailed that one. We call it a payoff in the speaking business, or boy, you had the audience on the palm of your hands when you were talking about something. I always find something supportive when he's performing, and if I need to add something to it, which I rarely do, but if I do, I'll wait 24 hours so that adrenaline and his raw exposure to me accepting what he did on stage or saying it was good is not so sensitive. And for anybody that's a performer, you know how sensitive you are because you're heightened, and I don't know. You explain that energy when you get off stage.
Yeah, you're just wired up. You just give it everything you have. It's completely consuming. It's like being an athlete. I mean, you're just you're just completely leaving everything, all your energy on the stage, and it's hard to hear criticism right away just because you put so much out there. You tried so hard, even if it didn't go well for you.
Right. Yeah. So I would recommend, for those of you who have that situation, to wait 24 hours to give them your real opinion, because it is to be supportive of someone who's performing is very unique, and it's truly a gift because not that many people get to see their loved ones do what they love to do on stage. So.
Well, in general, just to wrap up my part of this, and in general with building each other up, is I think your spouse just has to know that you're going to be there emotionally for him or her. They have to know that. I mean, when push comes to shove, when everything's great, then it's easier. You don't have to be as cognizant of it. Mm-hmm. It's a good idea if you are, but you don't have to because things are great. So we're talking about when things go to hell. When things are bad, when things are stressful. When there's tough times for whatever, and everything is cyclical. I mean, everything goes up and down. That's life, right? But I think they have to know. Like we joke around. Obviously, on the show, we do this all the time. We do this when the camera's not rolling. We always say now whenever we fight or we're bickering back and forth, we have this thing now since we've had this podcast. We say, don't yell at me. Save it for the podcast. Save your energy. It's kind of a joke. And we do that. And sometimes people would probably say, well, you're taking swipes at each other and that kind of thing. We do it in a fun. This is our relationship. We do this in a fun way. We've done this for almost 40 years. But I think here's the bottom line. We don't have to praise each other flowery every single day, and if you do that, that's fine. I tend to think that comes off a little fake sometimes with couples. It's fine if that's the way you do it, but it's not our thing. We have fun with each other, and we'll criticize each other just playing around like we do on the show. But the bottom line is we're having fun.
Right.
When push comes to shove, we're thicker than thieves. And you have to be. I think in business, especially, when everything goes to hell, you have to know that your spouse is going to be there. Like, this is not a game. This is your life. This is your business. This is your livelihood. You've got to know that you've got one person in the world that's got your back, even if you screwed up. Right. And we've both screwed up to the tunes of losing millions of dollars. We've made money, but we've also lost money, like every business. And sometimes it was a screw up one of us made, and we were always there for each other because that's when it really counts. We can go back and forth, and I'll call Dawn bossy, and she'll call me something. We'll go back and we'll play around. And people say, well, that's not being supportive. We're just playing around because there's no war. But when there's a war, there's one person who shows up for me every single time, and I know who it is, and I don't have to question whether she'll show up ever. It's never even a doubt. Right. That means I can play full out knowing that she's going to be there watching to make sure and that I'm covered or we're covered together. Right. And if I can't see something, like people say, well, she's got your back. Well, yeah, she got my back, my front, my side, overhead, everything. And I know that, so I can play full out knowing I'm not alone in this game. And I think that, on a serious note, I think that's what really counts.
I do too, and I don't want to be negative, but if you don't feel like you're getting the support, because I have a lot of friends of mine that don't get their support from their husbands, I would turn it and look at yourself. Are you giving that support back? Because I can make a mistake, and it makes me try harder not to make a mistake or to make the right decision, because no matter what decision I make, I know Steve is going to support me. It just makes me want to try harder to make the right decision because I know I'm going to get the support either way. But for those of you that are in a relationship that you don't feel like your spouse is supporting you, chances are it's because somewhere along the line you've not supported them, and when they've made a wrong decision. And if you really do start trusting that support and saying, okay, you know what, if Stephen totally does something that I totally disagree with and it completely fails, I'm going to support him, and just change that mind shift. Because no matter, I know, and you guys know, you're in your relationship, your partner's trying the best they can. I mean, one of your favorite lines I always love using: everyone's operating at their current level of awareness. Stephen doesn't make a mistake on purpose. I don't make a mistake on purpose. Trust me, your business partner and your spouse is not making the mistake on purpose. But I would look for that support. If you want the support, start supporting your spouse a little bit more and see what happens.
Well said. I think that'll wrap it up.
That's it.
Thanks for watching, guys. Listen, we'll see you next time in the next episode.
Bye-bye.